He's always shooting down in the woods. He wouldn't leave it even if he could. Life is good, yeah!
Hickok 45 here, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the beautiful hills of Middle Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee, the home of Davy Crockett, Dolly Parton, Alvin York, many others. Yes, all of those are not from Middle Tennessee. This is Middle Tennessee, where I am. Yes, glad to have y'all. It's good to see you again. Really haven't seen you for a long time. Well, for a little while. It's been weeks since I have seen you from the reloading room. So again, it's good to see you. Joe, would you please put your pants on? Alice, quit pointing that Glock at me, please. I know it's the camera's got to go to the computer and all that, but still, yeah, scares me. So yeah, it is good to see you. And of course, you do realize I can see you sitting there and standing there and on the couch, wherever you are, because you can see me. It only makes sense, right? So here we are, shooting the breeze again, number 3, I guess. You wanted the cameras now, remember that, okay? It's not required watching, keep that in mind. Don't expect brilliance. Just me yakking about whatever comes to mind. Okay, I've got my clock here, so I'll keep it fairly brief. So the torture won't be too intense, okay? It will be, not brief, but not 2 hours worth, all right? So, been out of town. And I think I told you I try to do one of these maybe every couple of weeks, a little bit more frequently than the radio shows, but I guess it has been 3 or more weeks. So I hope it didn't cause a hardship for anybody and that your life has just felt incomplete. Oh man, yeah, and I'll tell you a little bit about why I was out of town. Wasn't on any secret mission in Afghanistan, sorry. But this kind of relates to the classic firearm I brought out. I brought out a classic firearm today, at least a classic replica, even though it is made, well, it has Colt's name on it, put it that way. And you have seen this this old gun, this old, you know what, I'm drawing a blank on what it is. That's pretty bad, and it'll come to me. It'll come to me. I love it in the John Wayne movie True Grit. You know, when, who's it, Matty Ross, you know, has this thing. A Dragoon, okay, it came to me. Colt's Dragoon. That's what happens with live TV. Live, whatever it is, you know. But yeah, this big old Colt's Dragoon 3rd model is a behemoth of a firearm. And I hadn't handled it in quite a while. I was looking in the safe there and I saw it and I thought, oh man, that thing's a beauty. If it weren't such a messy job, I'd shoot it once a week. And I've got to get it out and shoot it. We're going to do more black powder. I neglected that area of interest, my interest, and your interest too, but especially my interest. I've had black powder rifles and things for a long time, and I shoot them kind of infrequently, but I don't know what it's like. And maybe if you're a car collector, some of you maybe are lucky enough to have 10 cars. There's probably one that you just rarely ever drive, but you really still have a lot of affection for it, okay? Kind of like back when I was dating supermodels. I had probably 10 or 12 supermodels I dated, and even the ones I didn't date that often, I mean, I just liked them just as much as the others, really. I promise I did. So anyway, yeah, Colt's Dragoon. Isn't it nice that we don't have to go through all that to load a handgun these days? This, oh yeah, cool. That was kind of stiff, yeah. That you, and hopefully you have seen, of course there could be some new folks that have not seen not only our videos on the percussion revolvers, you've not seen any video on a percussion revolver, you've not even seen how a percussion revolver works. Well, this is not the place to kind of go over that, you know, with limited time, but you do have to put the powder and ball and everything from the front and the cylinder, and you ram it down in there with the ramrod. And you close that back up and you cap the nipples. That's one reason this gun is pretty easy to determine whether it's safe or not, because there's, as you can see, there's no caps on any of those nipples. So it's essentially a toy gun right now, okay? But pretty neat, pretty neat. Big old heavy thing. Got to get it out and shoot it, don't I? So yeah, it's good to have y'all back. I got another black powder rifle here we're gonna talk about. Yeah, I've been out and around and traveling a little bit. Wow, 2,000 miles on the car and the truck. So, you know, I went a couple of places probably. Went to kind of well, I like to say it was a trip of liberty, so to speak. I went through Virginia and to some historical sites, to some of the birthplace sites of our nation. You get right down to it. Williamsburg. You know, I didn't go to Jamestown this time. Been there and done that, but not on this trip. And it's right there close. You got Yorktown, Jamestown, and Williamsburg right there together. And that was not the main purpose of the trip. To next time I want to go to Yorktown again and Jamestown again, but it's been a few years since I've been there. But I went to Williamsburg and spent a good amount of time there. It was really neat. Went to Monticello, you know, Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, and then Williamsburg and then Virginia Beach, and just got a real, strong reminder, I guess, of the history, you know, of our country, the history there. You know, as you do those sorts of trips, you read and, you know, you see reenactments and you see all the historical spots, you know, on the map, and you just are reminded, you know, how things got going, how they got started, and the Revolution, and before the Revolution, what was leading up to it, as you study and listen and watch. So, and then the cool thing about it is you can learn that anywhere. Too bad more people aren't learning it in school these days, right? And have a better appreciation for our country and what it stands for and how it was started, who started it, and, you know, all the intentions and everything, and more about those people. But it's especially cool to be at those spots. It really is. You know, to be there in Williamsburg and just see, you know, those spots that are still there, some of the buildings still there, and the ones they've reconstructed and everything, and the reenactments of what happened and how they rode in there and read the Declaration of Independence on the steps, and as they did in other villages and towns. It's really neat. It's really neat. I enjoyed that immensely. I sure did. So I kind of call it the Liberty trip, but we went on to Washington, D.C. I don't know how much liberty is coming out of there these days, but still, you know, again, it's a study in you know, history of the country, and how things got started, who was responsible, you know, how things were set up. And so I'm just fascinated all over again whenever I read about those days and the Revolutionary War. I really am. You know, I feel like I have a basic understanding of it, more so than I ever did in school. And that troubles me because I feel like I don't know half enough about it, and I don't think about it enough. I'm not appreciative enough of the folks who started this experiment, and what they sacrificed to do it, how they went about it, and what it stands for. You know, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all those ideals that we try to live by, unsuccessfully, of course, in a lot of cases. But I feel like I know a little bit about it, and the sad thing is, I think there are a lot of people, I'm trying to say, who probably know 10% of what I know, and I don't know that much, and I'm not as knowledgeable as I should be. It's kind of what I'm getting at here. I don't know as much as I ought to, but I think there's a lot of people who know probably nothing, you know, compared with what I know, and I don't know much. That's what's so sad about it. And you know, hopefully everybody, if there's young people watching, you know, or anybody, if you really are vague on all that, you slept through those history classes, you just haven't gotten around to, like most of us, I think, once you get out of school, and if you have any interest at all in history and the world, you begin to revisit a lot of that stuff. I know that's what happened with me in school. So much was thrown at us at the same time. And even if you do learn it and do well on the tests, I don't know if you really have an appreciation for it that much, you know, when you're 15, 16, 17 maybe. but hopefully you'll revisit a lot of that, and and help instill in young people and your children how this country got started, how it got set up. And I'm always impressed by the writings of the founding fathers. Yeah, I know they're a bunch of old rich white men. They get a lot of criticism. They deserve some of it. Some of them had slaves and everything else. Way different times. A lot of things they did, it's not excusable, of course. But I don't know. I try to. I guess we have to separate some of anybody, whoever it is. Think of anybody who is considered a great leader or a great person, someone who has been responsible for breaking ground in some area, whatever. Something that has made our life better, our life easier. Probably in about 80% of those people's lives, there's some real negatives. It's just the way it is. It comes out all the time, doesn't it? Celebrities and as people that we discover, they were involved in this, or they've been lying about that or something. So, I don't know. But be that as it may, some of those guys, mostly guys back then, boy, they were smart. I mean, Jefferson, for all of his negatives, the guy was so brilliant, really. I mean, he makes me feel like a slacker. He was involved in everything. Architecture, I think he helped start a government. I believe he wrote that little document, at least drafted it, the Declaration of Independence, and read thousands and thousands of books. Started a university, UVA. He must never have slept, is all I can figure. Again, negative sides to those folks, but different times, and I am just thankful for that positive side to those folks. And one thing I came away with on this trip a little more than in the past, I developed a better sense just from some of the reading I did and reenactments, and just learning a little bit more about some of the I start to say characters, the historical figures of the time, how well read they were, and how they were really the experiment that this country is. They were really idealists in a lot of ways. They didn't know if it would work, and maybe it hasn't. So far, it's worked better than most things around the globe, I think. But not to diss your country if you're watching from somewhere else, but we have a pretty good experiment going here. I know it looks bad from across the ocean. You watch the news, everything looks bad. Alabama looks bad. New Mexico looks bad. Because the news focuses on the negative, if you haven't figured that one out yet, okay? It's not news if it's positive, right? Because most of the time things work pretty well. That's the definition of news, really, negative. So, I know people come to this country expecting to see a mugging and a shooting on every street corner, and there might be a side of town where that happens. But for the most part, that's not the case, even though we value the Second Amendment, and we carry firearms, many of us. We also carry fire extinguishers. We carry spare tires. Doesn't mean everybody's house, every other house is burning in the neighborhood. Why not, though, have a fire extinguisher? I digress again. I digress. But anyway, I developed even a better appreciation for the intelligence and how much those guys read, and how they were influenced, and what they were really trying to do, and really how novel this was, this experiment, letting the people be in charge. That was a big jump. That was quite a leap when you think about where they came from, people from those generations, and where around the world were people running the show, electing representatives, and then the detail of all that, which is not perfect, but it's pretty cool. As we know, as we have found out, it has some deficiencies, particularly as we continue, certain politicians continue buying votes, pandering to voters, and if you can get enough voters dependent upon you, then I'm not so sure the system works as well, but maybe we can turn that around, who knows. But anyway, it was kind of a trip of liberty, a new appreciation for that. I highly recommend that you get to Williamsburg, Jamestown, those places if you've not been there. Virginia's a beautiful state, and it's more or less a free state, Went up into Maryland, circled up from Virginia Beach. Just was a couple days at the beach. Yeah, I had to go to the beach for a little bit. Not a lot of history there maybe, but, well, the ocean's pretty old. I saw some, well, the bikinis looked fairly new, actually. I didn't notice those. But from Virginia Beach, went on up to Fairfax, Virginia, and D.C., Washington, through Maryland. The beauty of Virginia, of someone building Virginia that close to D.C., the beauty of that is that you can get a room and stay in, say, like Fairfax or somewhere, where the NRA Museum, Firearms Museum, happens to be. And then you can strip yourself of all your self-defense devices and risk your life by driving into DC. Okay? You can do that and maybe not get arrested. So that's one advantage of going into Virginia. Problem is, driving through Maryland is another proposition. I hate to go up into that part of the country because you cannot avoid, it seems like you cannot avoid Maryland or New Jersey or New York. How do you, Massachusetts, another story, but how do you avoid those non-free states, basically, when it comes to Second Amendment issues? We're spoiled. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of you are from that area and other parts of the country. You're not from the South, of course, most of you. Some of you, many of you are not even from the United States. But in the southern part of the United States, it's pretty free. We can drive from state to state and not really think about it. I can be packing a Glock or a 1911 and drive from the Carolinas, generally speaking, through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, New Mexico. I can drive all the way to California before I hit the Iron Curtain again. So it's just strange going up into the northeastern part of the United States. You want to go visit some places, but then you're a little wary about it. I mean, think of the horror stories. I'm not just sitting here being paranoid. It's in the news, seems like monthly, someone being arrested, perfectly law-abiding person, normally, just has a carry permit, and they drive into New Jersey or Maryland or somewhere, and they end up in jail, because they have that evil weapon in the car. So anyway, I took the chance, avoided arrest, and drove through a lot of Maryland. I hated to do it. I tried not to spend any money there. Sorry if you're from there. But, you need to get your politicians straightened out, okay? New Jersey, same thing. Whew. Wow. But anyway, a good trip. D.C. is always good to visit. Been there quite a few times. Hopefully you have. It's a place, I know I'm wearing your nerves out with this creaking chair. Already sorry. Washington, it's easy to be really, really negative, hanging around there thinking about things that have gone on the last 10, 20 years. As you admire the Lincoln Memorial or the Washington Memorial, all the various monuments, and just enjoy that history there too. And I have to say, in some ways it does tarnish it for you, knowing how the people who set that up had liberty on their minds to the extent they did, and how that's being eroded really slowly. It's a little disconcerting. You could allow yourself to maybe become depressed if you did, but still, I recommend you go, and it's pretty interesting, and it looks just like you see in the pictures, right? We went in there on the afternoon. Think about this. Here you're near the end of July, ultimate peak tourist season, both at Virginia Beach. Almost didn't get a room at the beach. Washington, D.C., loaded with tourists, but we floundered around there, and went in twice. The second trip was a little bit better. We stayed down I guess it's the south or the west side of the mall. I'm trying to think how geography is there. I guess it's the south. Well, I know what it is, because the sun was shining. Yeah, the sun was rising on Abe Lincoln. That would make it down on the west end of the mall, right? Okay. because I think in Washington the sun rises in the east, right? Depends on where you live, right? But anyway, yeah. So we were down on the west end of the mall. It's not quite as crazy down there. You can find a place to park if you get there early enough and everything. So got to hang out with old Abe Lincoln a little bit. Visited the memorials, the Korean War Memorial and Vietnam Memorial, and some of those places. Though I've been to those many times, but I don't know. I can't go to Washington really, or to that area, without just walking down there. It's really special to me. I was not in Vietnam. I was busy playing basketball and college and all that. But it's just a interesting memorial. It really is. And seeing all those names, and I got to make sure I'm not getting too late here, but it's a moving sight. And those of you who have seen it know what I'm talking about, especially if you served in Vietnam or anywhere. All those names on that wall, it just slaps you in the face. It really does, and it makes you think about a lot of things, about that war, and I think any thinking person has to cross their minds, whether you're a hawk or a dove, whether you are always ready to go to war, and highly trained to do it, or whether you think all wars are wrong, or whatever. Wherever you stand on that, you can't help but think when you see that is, was this necessary? I think that's true for every war. It needs to be evaluated, right? Preferably before we get into it, right? How profound is that? How about before we go? But if not, maybe during, and certainly afterwards. Was that worth doing? And of course, like everything else, you get multiple opinions, and you got one side swears it was worth it, and another side swears it was not. But we all need to think about those things. You young people, think about those things. So, I think a lot of people in the country now, regardless of political party affiliation, are thinking more about that. And lots of wars we've gotten into with the best intentions. And yeah, it's easy to make a case for it. We could make a case for going into almost any country on the planet, probably. There's people being abused, horrible abuse, and that sort of thing going on. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are more reluctant now, regardless of party, to jump into solving other people's problems. I mean, we've seen how difficult that is. We've seen the many deaths that result from it, and the maimed, soldiers that come back, missing arms, legs, and everything, and the difficulties. And we just have to look at that. Okay, is this really worth it? What have we accomplished? Is it going to go back to right where it was 5 years after we're gone, 10 years after we're gone, 20 years after we're gone? So I don't know. Things to think about. I think we should think about all that. Obviously, some of you may be politicians someday. You might be right now. All of you are politicians in the sense that you can vote, or you will be voting, hopefully. And we need to make our voices heard. What we think about that, among other things. Again, liberty. If we don't vote, we lose it. I just don't see many people in Washington, many politicians in Washington these days, talking about liberty. Do you? I mean, who's running on a platform of liberty? And they might say that, they might talk about it, all the platitudes you hear, but I just wonder who is really running on a platform of liberty. Now, there might be a couple, but those are the only politicians that impress me, okay, at all. So everybody's got a solution for fixing this and fixing that, and arguing about immigration, all these kinds of things. You give me a strong country that can defend itself if we need to, that really, really relishes and cherishes liberty, freedom for everybody, freedom especially for individuals, not to be encroached upon, their rights not to be trampled upon, for any reason unless it's a darn good reason. Okay, and an environment where people are not worried about each other so much and not trying to control each other when it doesn't affect themselves. Yeah, I don't know. That's the country I want. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got off the rail. I don't have time to ramble this much. Treating it like a radio show, aren't I? But anyway, I had a good trip, and the beach was fun too. You know, there's just nothing like seeing the ocean. If you've not been to the ocean, and there might be someone watching this who has not, there's nothing like it. You know, seeing the ocean and getting in it a little bit or a lot, whatever you want to do. You know, sharks probably will not eat you. It's just, if you've not seen the ocean, let me clue you in. It's a massive thing. It's really big. It's really big. A lot of fish in it, salty, and it's interesting to watch. And it's very soothing. I think you'll enjoy it. What else on this trip? What did I do? Oh yeah, the NRA museum, Firearms Museum, was pretty cool. Pretty cool. And that reminds me of this gun. I saw the Hawken Brothers display in the NRA museum in a real Hawken rifle. And that's kind of what this is patterned after. This is a Lyman Great Plains rifle that Lyman sent us. They contacted me actually and wanted to know if I was interested in other muzzle loaders, and I said, you know what, I surely am, because I used to have one of these, a Great Plains rifle, in the early 70s, and I had a Thompson Center also, and I traded or sold sold to a relative actually, the Great Plains rifle, and kind of regretted that because it's a little more realistic looking in a lot of ways than even the Thompson Center, and they're both great rifles. But I liked it. I regretted I missed it a little bit, and whenever I see one or see a picture of one, I have to get one of those again sometime, especially since I'm without a Hawkins style, you know, plains rifle, and have been since a burglary about 20 years ago. Before safes and security and cameras and all that, you know, I had a break-in and lost a couple of guns that were not in a safe. I had one safe at that time, and that was one of them. Just leaned up against the fireplace, and it disappeared. But so I replaced it with Civil War replicas, which you've seen, hopefully in videos, the Enfield musket, and I've enjoyed those. They're easier to load actually with a mini ball. But I kind of miss these old things, and I don't think we've demonstrated a standard muzzle loader with with loading. Maybe I've loaded patch and ball in one of my other rifles, but with this one it has a 1 in 60 twist, which is a slow twist in the barrel, and it's designed for a round ball, shooting round ball, and a patched round ball. So we're going to do a video with this really soon and let you see this thing in action. It's a Hawkins style rifle. The Hawken brothers moved to St. Louis, and they made these things one at a time, you know, by hand, and it was one of the rifles of choice. There were others, but they were, I guess, the most famous. They were really well known and known for making great rifles. So if you were going west in the early 1800s, you didn't have a rifle. When you stopped in St. Louis, you were trying to find one of these babies, and the Hawken brothers made one of the very best. And I've always liked them. It was my first muzzleloader in my life. Was one of these. It was the Thompson Center I got first, and then this one, I guess. Yeah, and they're the same half stock style, and I don't know, they just really appealed to me. Old Charlie Hafner out in Franklin, Tennessee, Al Holler Gun Club, said I needed to get a muzzleloader, and I agreed. And I found one of those, and I love it. So this is a neat rifle. I've been shooting the thing. It does fine. I have some trouble seeing the sights clearly, but I like it. It's 54 caliber, not bad. Oh, a couple things before I go too long here. I was going to show you. I told you I'd try to remember to get something off the wall here to bore you with. This is a picture. It's usually over here on the wall of a couple of John's and my favorite dogs. You might remember Ginger. You can see that. I'll try to hold it still. Hold over my face so it looks better. But this guy here, girl, is Ginger. You've seen her maybe in some of the earlier videos. And then the other guy was Bud. He was He's one of a long line of golden retrievers I've had in my life, and he was undoubtedly our best one. Of course, they're all great. You know, it's like deciding which of your children, you know, is the best and all that. And I've had a lot of great golden retrievers, but old Bud, he was special. We got him. I think John was in 7th grade, and he lived about 10 years, I guess, and got a disease and passed on us. And they're both buried over on the campsite here on the compound. But Bud was great dog. I got him. That was not an easy picture to get. It was happened to have, of course, a digital camera in my pocket about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I don't know. And they would get up on the front porch like that and sit there sometimes. But you had to catch them fast before one of them moved. So I didn't pose that. They were just messing around there, and I had my camera. And John was off in college. I remember that morning. And I was trying to give him I'd send him a picture of the dog or something every now and then. And because he missed the dogs when he's off to school. So I would take pictures. I was just messing around with the camera anyway that morning. And then they got up there in the chair on the porch, and then the other one came up there. Oh man, you guys are about to pose for me. And sure enough, they did. And I just snapped it. So it wasn't done in a studio or anything. I was just lucky to get both those birds sitting there. They're cute dogs. Oh, one other thing. I pulled this off the rack up there, some ammo here. Bet you've never seen a box of ammo that looks like that. Browning, really. Go into a gun shop this afternoon and say, oh, I'd like some Browning ammo, some Browning 357 Magnum rounds, a box of Browning centerfire handgun ammunition. Yeah, this goes back to the early 70s when I first started hand loading and shooting my Model 19 357. And I use this just for storage, but I've had this box ever since then. It wasn't long after that that you just didn't see Browning ammunition. And I don't know that the Browning company loaded it or someone, you know, loaded it for them or what, but it was Browning ammunition, and it's been a long time since that's been around. So I hang on to it since I guess it's a little bit collectible. If it were in better shape, it might be worth a little bit. Who knows? So anyway, that's a couple of things around the reloading room here. What else should I draw off or drag off the wall here or the shelf? I don't know. Nothing. Anyway, a couple of housekeeping things. Remember now, folks, FAQ videos are all in the playlist, I think. That and like vlogs, radio shows, those kinds of things, I'm better about getting in the playlist. But just a reminder that all the other videos, firearms videos of all sorts, they're not really in playlists, okay? So I gave up about 2 years ago, I think, on that. I couldn't keep up, and I got behind, and I never have really caught up, probably 3 years ago. So new folks, if you go to a playlist that says military firearms, it's probably mostly going to be the older things, and I don't know, it may not be anything high def in there. I don't know. So, but anyway, don't go to a playlist and think, oh, you're new, relatively new. Oh, here's everything on revolvers. Not really. It's probably 10% of what we have on revolvers, 10% what we have on military rifles, or whatever the playlist is about. Unless it's FAQ videos, radio shows, like I say, those sorts of things. If I started a playlist for shooting the breeze, I think I have. Those things I'll keep up better, okay? And please, if you are new, go through the FAQ videos. I get so many questions, I can't answer them all. And one of the criteria I use is if it's in an FAQ video, you'll have to get to the FAQ videos, yeah. And I'll answer another question someone has if I can get to them all. That's about something that's not already been answered. So I have to use some filtering there because I can't answer them all anyway. So at least I know questions that are answered in videos, in FAQ videos or even in regular videos. If I'm going to skip some, I'd be smart to skip those the way I look at it. Okay. Especially if it's something like in almost every video where someone that if they even watch 10 videos, they'll know. Okay. Range tour videos, FAQ videos, all those things about how far targets are away and everything, it's all in there. So again, there's like I guess around 1,000 or more new people coming in every day, and so you're going to see those questions. It's not that people are dumb, even though a lot of us are. It's just they're new. They're new. So, when someone say, hey, how far is the gong, or whatever, it's not something to make fun of somebody about. They're just new, which is great. The more new people, the better. That's our goal, to continue bringing people in. We feel like that's the one thing that John and I, if nothing else, we can offer the Second Amendment, and showing the hobby and the fun of the hobby, and the educational side of the hobby. And that, I think, strengthens the Second Amendment, and many of you do the same thing, and I think that's what we have to offer. I used to talk about that pretty much in the radio shows, about just setting a good example. Hopefully I set a good example. I think 99% of the time. I might slip now and then, but if we set a good example for people see us at the range and being responsible with our firearms, treating them with respect, not being a scary person, for one thing. Now, some people are just naturally scary, I guess, but I think we just need to set a good example and show the fun of shooting firearms, and expand the hobby as much as we can. And the other side of that too is sometimes we don't want to act like something we're not. But I know when I was before videos and coming up as a shooter, and being in different professions, and working in a publishing industry, and in education and everything else, I always thought it was important, knowing how some people are, and you know what I'm talking about, to be careful, soft pedal your hobby a little bit at first, and then as people get to know you, then feel free to talk about it. Hopefully you can talk about it wherever you work, and with your relatives and whatever you do. Again, as I've said before, and now that shooting is much more mainstream, that's not so much an issue. I don't think hardly anybody has to worry about bringing up firearms at a family reunion, or in a crowd. Now, where you work might be a little different. People a little more on edge about that, maybe. But in general, you're not look, whoa, that guy has guns. And it was almost getting to that point in the 70s and 80s sometimes. But wow, it's so mainstream now. But you still want to be careful. And I used to tell students, I had a gun club where I taught, believe it or not, a gun safety club for several years. And one thing I always told students, and these were mostly 13, 14, 15 years old, you need to, especially as a young person, and anybody, but show responsibility, exaggerate that. If you're around firearms, really exaggerate the safety. Make sure you don't give anybody anything to worry about because there's still so many people out there that equate firearms with violence, evil, right? Death, and all that sort of thing. And you and I know, if you're watching this, you watch our videos, you're on board with knowing that firearms probably are not violent, right? If not, where's this phrase come from? Gun violence. Combat that phrase that I talked about that, I think, in the first Shooting a Breeze. That's just brainless personification. There's no such thing as gun violence or gun kindness. And so just let them know, well, gun violence, okay, where's the gun kindness? So there's no gun kindness, there's no gun violence, and they're just inanimate objects. But we want to make sure that people don't fear that we are somebody who has violent tendencies, right? I mean, it's our responsibility. If we see somebody with guns and they really do seem violent, or someone who is violent, we need to keep an eye on them. We need to keep an eye on someone who is a violent person, period. Forget the firearms. That's a separate issue, a totally separate issue. Violence, kindness, both of those are totally separate issues from firearms. This firearm neither makes me violent nor kind. It just makes me happy that I have it and get to shoot it. So maybe that's closer to kindness than it makes me a kind person, because I'm a happy person. I have a beautiful firearm to enjoy, so I'm in a very kind mood. Maybe there is gun kindness. I might have to reevaluate that. Okay, here I go rambling. Anything else I wanted to tell you about? We got to stay. I'll wrap up with a reminder that we've got to always stay on the alert now, because the the anti-gunners, the anti-freedom forces. We've got them at bay, but they're still out there. You see things coming up like executive orders, the Social Security business. Now, you may not be 20, you may be 20 years old, 25 years old, and you're not worried about that. Well, look, you need to think about these things just because it doesn't affect you or me individually. You know, the people on Social Security having trouble managing their finances can't own a gun, if you're not familiar with that. That's what they're trying to push now. Once that gets in the system, see, there's no recourse. These are unelected bureaucrats pushing this kind of stuff, and it's that slippery slope. So if today we can say, well, now you're drawing Social Security, so we're sort of in control of you, and you can't manage your finances, you don't need a gun. Well, where's that in? Where's that lead to? What's the next step? You know, you can't drive so well, you don't need a gun. You can't handle a car, a gun's machinery. You know, and two, what's this business about not being able to handle your finances? As I drive around these days, I see a payday loan or advance loan, whatever they call them, check cashing advance on your paycheck, whatever. All these businesses, they're flourishing. There's one on every corner. Looks to me like there's a lot of people who can't manage their finances. All of them, anybody that's visited one of those, you know, could be next. So anyway, the slippery slope is not just a paranoid issue. It's not a result of being paranoid. It's real. We've seen it come to fruition. Just like gun registration, background checks. Background checks, you know, you push that to the limit like the anti-freedom, anti-gun folks want to do. Well, you got to have registration in order to enforce that. And what does registration lead to? As we know, in every other place it's been tried. So anyway, stay in tune. Educate yourself on the firearms issues of the day. Support gun rights organizations, state, local, NRA, Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, Ronald Blank, and there's others. Do what you can and educate yourself. You might not agree with everything that I say or some of the people in those movements say on everything. I hope you don't. I hope you're thinking for yourself and you're a critical thinker. And if you believe and agree with everything I say, maybe you're not thinking enough. You should probably disagree with at least something, probably about me. I'm sure I would disagree with some stand that you have. All right, that's the beauty of this country. That's that liberty. You know, it's okay. It's okay. As long as what you're doing doesn't mess with me, it's great. You know, I like to think I'll defend your right to do that to the death. You know, and you, me. You know, I'm not messing with you. Speaking of that, do I have time to talk about the other issue? You know, I put a posting on about the drones, shooting the guy that in Kentucky shot down the drone. I was going to mention that. I forgot. I guess I was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek on that. But then again, I don't like the idea of drones hovering over my house watching me. You know, the guy in Kentucky is in trouble, and he probably will be in trouble. It looked like he was in a regular neighborhood. He wasn't out in the country like I am. But the thing was hovering over his house. Apparently, his daughter was out there. I think they had a swimming pool, didn't it say? And his 14-year-old daughter, 13 and 14-year-old daughter was out there. You know, those things are just creepy, you know, over someone's house. You know, hovering over somebody's house. If it's just you see one going by, it's another matter. But and I know it's illegal to shoot them down, but I tell you what, in the country, they're going to disappear. They will disappear. They're hovering over somebody's house. It will happen. If you've got a lot of money in one, I'm sorry. You know, that was your choice. But I would suggest you don't hover over anybody's rural property. Let's put it that way. Because they're just designed for eavesdropping, you know, in a way. There's nobody on them. So they're watching, they're filming, they're taking pictures of you. You know, I don't know. Doesn't bother some people. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but I just know that if those things show up in the country, that there's a lot of shotguns that will come into play on that. So anyway, I will let you go, and I will thank you again for being supportive of the channel and everything that you guys do, helping with the comments, and appreciate you whatever support you give to the people who support us, and our sponsors. And we'll always be judicial and wise about sponsorship we take. Whether it's a safe company or a gun shop or whatever it is, SDI, Bud's Gun. Just different sponsors that we have that help us. Don't have to like our sponsors, but we expect respect, and because we're never going to let sponsors dictate what we do in our channel. Okay, we want the sponsorship, some sponsorship, but not too much, because the video, the content is going to remain the same. Okay, and that's my pledge, to you guys. So the more we can, I guess, ease some of the burdens, that's good. But we're going to keep doing what we do, and that's just the way it is. We're just glad that a lot of you guys and gals enjoy what we're doing enough to keep watching. And I do emphasize gals. Hear from a lot of you gals, and we have another women's group, shooting group, that we may go speak to. They've invited us. And I'm really enjoying the fact that, and have for years, that we have a wide audience. I've run into y'all all the time. I ran into a lot of you on the trip, going around Virginia and up in DC and everywhere. It could be a young lady. It could be an old lady. It could be a guy that's 22, 16, 14, 35, 40, 50, 70. I mean, the demographic is just all over the place, and that's pleasing, not because of marketing, but just because we're glad that we're not turning off, a segment of, I guess, probably somebody we're turning off, but the people we want watching, we're glad are watching, and we need to support the Second Amendment, seem to be watching, and so that's great. That's great. We're not alienating the young ladies or the young guys or the old ladies, apparently, at least too badly. So maybe we are. Maybe we're turning a few of them into trolls. I don't know. Anyway, I better shut up, and I appreciate y'all watching and listening. And I guess I'll continue to bring the camera in here. We'll continue with this experiment. I think it makes me talk too fast. I need to slow down. But I don't know. Most of what I say is not exactly profound anyway. So does it really matter? Does it really matter? So I've enjoyed chatting with you. And I guess I'll let you go. Life is good.